answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Good day, Mad Men Mafia.
Yeah. I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
For you, boo. Hey, JBK, man. We had a good round of golf over the weekend. Was that yesterday? Yeah.
That was yesterday.
And then after
Another
we
round
played,
today.
man, that was, so my wife and I went to after we played golf, my wife and I went to our storage unit. And, we got this big old storage unit. We got stuff in there, man, that we have not touched or seen since, basically she moved into what was my home and is now her home too. And so we went in there and, man, everything was all covered in dust. And we're like, man, we need to start cleaning this thing out. I mean, obviously there's a bunch of junk in there that we don't need, bunch of stuff we will never need. And if and when we do need it in the future, we can get one kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we went in there, man, and we was, we fit as much as we could into the truck and then drove it over to Goodwill. But as we were going through some stuff, man, something hit me. I pulled out this trunk. And it was like one of those old, two big metal class trunks and
the steamer trunk
down lock thing on it and all that kind of stuff. I had one of those, man. I had one of those. And I pulled it out and opened it up, and man, there was literally stuff that, I mean, I had my like Coast Guard discharge papers and just stuff from like when I got qualified for different certifications and all that in the Coast Guard. I had my college transcript. I mean, I had my cap and gown from college in there. Man, my point is I had stuff that was in that trunk that I had not literally seen or touched in over 30 years or almost 30 years anyway. And man, it just hit me like, that was literally junk in my trunk. and as I was going through that, I was like, man, how much stuff do we carry around that we just carry around? I mean, because I've had that, and I've moved, I don't know how many times. I've had, who knows, all the different places it's been. But either way, I've just taken it with me, and it's stuff that I don't need, will ever need. I'm pretty sure I won't need my cap and gown from college again. But as I was going through that, man, it just really hit me like, how much stuff do we have in our lives, whether it's literal or metaphorical, whatever? How much stuff do we carry around that we have no need for, man, that don't serve us? And how much stuff do we carry around in the inside and the outside that is just junk in our trunk?
Yeah, I was thinking about that when we were talking, and then kind of thinking about this episode, and it was interesting because I thought about how when somebody has amnesia, somebody gets knocked on the head and they have amnesia and they don't remember nothing, how more times than not their personality changes. How maybe once they have amnesia, they become more who they really are versus the story that they tell themselves because of all the baggage they carry and all the memories and all the identity they keep with them because of what they think. Like you're famous for saying, baggage becomes luggage. I mean, how much stuff are we lugging around from our past that could just be accepted, could be, processed through, could just be let go. But we carry it around because maybe it's nostalgia, maybe it's just a belief that, oh, well, I have to have that stuff because that's me. But it's like, is it really you, or is that just the thoughts you keep thinking because you keep carrying this stuff around with you? Wouldn't it be nice to lighten our load and just say, hey, I don't need that anymore. Dad's gone. I don't need to carry around the anger and resentment to dad anymore. That job is gone. They let me go or whatever. I left them. I don't need to carry around resentment and anger about that job anymore. It's like, this relationship's over. We signed the papers. We moved out the house. We sold all our stuff. Why do I need to carry around resentment, anger, and all that from that last relationship? I think all that stuff we carry around, not only does it negate us being free, and who we really want to be, but it also holds us back. It's like the lead weights and lead anchors of life that hold us back because we're not willing to accept, acknowledge, process, and let go of all this stuff that turns into luggage, turns into all this weight we carry.
Yeah, that is something that I've learned that over the past, several years of my life. Just that, and and I kind of live by that a little bit to a degree of, yeah, when you have baggage, and we use the term baggage for a lot of things and a lot of stuff that you just named. When you have that baggage and you just take that baggage with you, whether it's different careers or different phases of life, and like you said, different relationships, that's probably where it shows up the most is in
Mhm.
relationships. But when you have that baggage, the stuff that that we don't, you end up just that baggage becoming luggage. And and that, to me, that trunk was almost a metaphor of that. I mean, literally junk in the I mean, and that wasn't it. I mean, I had all kinds of just random. I had like my actual, like a phone book, like a handwritten, you write in phone numbers. I had one of those from high school, I think. I think when I like graduated high school, I got that and was writing down something. All the names in there were friends from high school. Probably when I was going to college, I wrote down names and numbers. And man, I can't even describe just all the random junk that was in there. I mean, literally, like, I mean, just all kinds of random stuff.
Mhm.
Um, but when you have that baggage and you just take it with you everywhere, man, it just weighs you down. It weighs you down. And like I said, man, I think a lot of times that shows up mostly in, specifically just in relationships, whether it's getting into a relationship, or whether it's letting go of a relationship, or whether in many kind of ways. But we it would serve us well, if and when we learn how to let go of that kind of stuff and
Mhm.
realize, like, man, I don't need that. Like, it's cool, it's nostalgic. Maybe we hold on to some wounds, some hurts. Maybe we hold on to some things that people did to us. Maybe we hold on to some transcripts of stuff that somebody told us. A parent might have said something that cut you to the bone. I mean, you might have some scars and wounds and all those kinds of things. And all of these, all and it's not even all bad too. I mean, I had in there, so I did. I don't even remember what year it was, but at this point, it must have been 6, 7 years ago. I did the Spartan race, um, and I had the medal that they give you, when you're done the Spartan race in there, and that was great. It was an accomplishment, kind of like my cap and gown from when I graduated
Mhm.
college. I mean, if I really think about it, and which is probably why I still had it. I was the first one in my family, cousins and everything, to graduate college. So it was a huge accomplishment when I did. And so it's not even always necessarily bad things, but then at some point, you still have to ask the question, like, do I need this? Do I need to continue to carry this around, or like the actual thing? Or can I just let some things go and let some things just be part of my past, whether good or bad?
Yeah, I mean, it's kinda, I think, part of wisdom and growth, especially as men nowadays, is to learn how to let things go. I mean, you remember the old what was it, the old Al Bundy thing where he's always talking about that touchdown pass in high school, and he's, reliving that, and that's his claim to fame and whatnot. But because of that, because he quote unquote peaked in high school and all he can talk about is big game, he's not free to move forward. He's not free to reinvent himself. He's not free to be the new version of himself. He's not free from the past. And that's the biggest issue when we carry these things around, when we identify with these things, when we don't forgive and forget and let go and leave our past behind us, it confines us. It's like puts us in a prison of this past belief system, these past hurts, these past things that no longer exist. Like, I mean, one of those old philosophical kind of tangents where people are like, okay, are you actually hurt, or are you still remembering when you were hurt? Because most of the time, the hurt lasts a few minutes, it might last a few hours, but then you keep carrying that on, you keep repeating that, you keep recreating that, and then you walk around like, oh, I'm so hurt, I'm so traumatized, I'm so this and that. It's like, yeah, it's because you keep recreating it instead of allowing it to go, allowing it to be in the past and setting yourself free. You're recreating something that could have been done with, 5 minutes after it happened. Oh, I fell down and hurt myself. I busted my knee open. Okay, that hurt for a minute. Now I put a bandage on, clean it up, and move on with my life. Or, oh, look at my knee. You see how I busted up my knee? And it's like we keep bringing it back up. We keep recreating it. So instead of creating something new, instead of having a new experience or even reinventing ourselves, we keep rehashing the same old patterns, the same old wounds, the same old traumas. We keep recreating them. They could have been done with years and years ago, but we decide in the moment, like, well, this identifies me because I still want to feel pain, or I still want to feel, you know, the victim of this event. So I'm going to keep recreating it. I'm going to keep bringing it up. I'm going to keep talking about it because that's who I am, because I'm the victim of this. And well, you're always going to be a victim as long as you bring that up and recreate it. But as soon as you heal it and let it go, you free yourself from that past and you actually become more of who you really are and you become a better version of yourself. But as we move forward in life, we have to let these things go. There's the nostalgia, there's the looking back and going, oh, I remember in high school, or I remember this, or I remember that. But that should be a memory. It should be wisdom. It should not be luggage that you're carrying around with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Because even when it's good stuff, oftentimes, even when it's good stuff, you like the Al Bundy example, you can almost hang on to that as your identity.
Yeah.
That you find just identity in that as opposed to experience. You can find identity in stuff or experience in stuff that's from your past, and that can help you grow into your future. But when you find identity in all that, yeah, when you sit around on the couch, with your hand down your waistline, talking about that game you had in Polk High
Hmm.
and all that kind of stuff, that can almost hold you back from creating the new you or becoming the new you and evolving into who you're gonna be and who you need to be now as opposed to who you were back then. I mean, ideally, your your greatness should not exist in the past. If you're great, if the greatest part of you in terms of identity is 20, 30, 40 years ago, then man, that's a long decline, man. And no roller coaster can go downhill forever. Like at some point, the ride has to go back up, and we should experience peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
But you can't have the greatest part of your identity be in the past. And speaking of the past, I think this segment, this first segment,
We'll leave this
is going
segment
to
in the
be in the
past.
past. We're going to roll on to taking us a little break here. Um, and letting letting our future be be in this break. So we are the Mad Men of Masculinity, KLDC 1220 AM in the Mile High City, on the interwebs everywhere, and we're gonna talk about some baggage and some luggage some more
Mhm.
right after this break. Come on back. Nice. Couldn't
Let me close
remember
this
Al
blind real
Bundy's
quick.
high school for a minute.
Ooh. I'm already wet. I don't need to wash myself out anymore. Lord have mercy. All this light.
All right, let's roll.
Uh,
Your boys are back.
We back.
Mad Men of Masculinity, KLDC 1220 AM Mile High City, on the interwebs everywhere. Holly's Boys
Everywhere.
on Facebook, YouTube, I think TikTok now. There's a bunch of shorts or reels or whatever they're called on TikTok. All that kind of stuff, man. We're pretty easy to find. We want to hear, man. What's your opinion about the baggage and the luggage? You got some
Hmm.
things in your past you want to let go, or you need to let go, or some things in your past you find identity with. One of the things that hit me when I was, when we were going through our storage unit, and I had this particular trunk, um, and carried around all this stuff from literally the past 30 years. Not even all necessarily bad. Matter of fact, that trunk specifically was probably more good stuff than not. I mean, you know, probably the most fun years of my life were in college and after high school, and military. But one of the things I thought about was how much that trunk has cost me
Mm.
over the past 30 years. And when I say cost, I'm talking about I've had to move that trunk, move with that trunk. I've had to load it up, I don't know how many times, and unload it how many times. Man, when I look at and especially here in my neighborhood or my part of town where I live, man, there's storage units everywhere. I mean, I don't know how many different little store, whether it's public storage or just whatever. I don't know how many of these storage units we got all over all over Parker where I live. And so you just got to think, man, how much stuff do we collectively have when we got, everybody's got houses and garages, and most people have more bedrooms in their house than people, and more toilets than butts, right? And so, but we got all this space, and it's very American of us, but we got these storage units all around. And so we're like, how much is holding on to all of this stuff like costing us? Like what's the cost of having all of these things that we just haul around in different phases of life?
Yeah, I mean, there's something I guess it is much more American than a lot of other places, but there's just this thing about my stuff, and I gotta have my stuff. And I mean, I might have to put in the comments the George Carlin bit about my stuff. I gotta take some of my stuff over here, and then I got little bags for my little stuff so I can feel at home. You go travel, you go to the hotel, I gotta have my stuff. And for some reason, we, especially in America, not only do we have our stuff in our house, and we got to keep the old stuff from the past just in case. And we guys know every guy has that drawer, the junk drawer, where you got the bolts and the screws and the rubber bands and the little pieces of tape and the battery that might be good, it might not be good. And so we got this drawer with all this junk. We're like, well, I might need it. And that drawer gets justified the one day you find a screw you need, or need that battery or that piece. See, I told you I'd need this. But how, like to your point, how much does that cost us by carrying all that stuff around? Like, there is something to be said about the minimalist movement. I know most of that's about stuff and not having to have a home and having all this stuff and just wearing what you have. I mean, even the whole Jack Reacher phenomenon was like the guy he just buys his clothes from the Goodwill, and all he has is what he has on and everything. But there is a sense of freedom to that. I know for most of us that's probably a little bit extreme, but there is something to look at. Like, well, how much to do is does our stuff? What's the old saying? The things you own you. How much stuff is owning you? How much stuff do you need? How much of your past do you need to carry with you? Because in the same way that our stuff owns us, your past will own you as well when you aren't allowed to, or not allowing yourself to release it. When you hang on to that story, you hang on to that pain, you hang on to that grievance. It's just like, what's the saying, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. It's the same sort of thing. You're hanging on to these things in resentment and in anger and in um trauma or victimhood from something that happened in the past, when you could just let it go. But until we actually realize how much pain and how much that's costing us and how much that's holding us back and how much that's negating our natural freedom, I don't think most people will let that stuff go, because, like to your point, they identify with that. Well, I wouldn't be me without that pain. I wouldn't be me without that story. I wouldn't be me without this trauma. Like, that defines me. Well, it shouldn't define you. It should educate you. You should learn from it, take what lessons you can glean from it, and move forward and let it go. But when you hang on to it, then you're in a prison of your own making because of the traumas and the beliefs and the thoughts of the past, instead of learning from it and letting it go.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point, man, that stuff owning us, when we loaded up what we could in the truck, we actually took it all to Goodwill to donate, which again is a further extension of, there's stores that basically resell people's stuff, right? I
Mhm.
mean, and so we do specialize in that, and as a society, as a culture. And I mean, we're talking literally, but it also exists, also exists, in more abstract ways anyway. But but the main struggle in the stuff battle, in the baggage battle, is letting stuff go. It's Elsa and Anna, let it go, let it go.
Mhm.
Um, and there's something inherent, and we even, like, we didn't get into arguments or anything like that, but we even had, as we were, pulling out stuff to load up in the truck, it was like, do we really need that? Like, I had this little bistro table and chairs, and yeah, it looked cool out, out back on the patio. But then it's like, do we need that? I think I bought it for like $40 or something in the store. Um, but if we put it out back right now, it might be cool out back. But at some point when the sun and the rain hits it, probably here in the next month or two, it's gonna fall apart, and because it was wood and be all flimsy. And it's like, do we need that? And there's something about us that's like, I gotta hold on to this stuff. I gotta grip it. I gotta grip it. And the hardest part is just to let it go and be like, the question is, does it serve me? Is it serving me right now? And do I really, really need it? And sometimes for no real reason, it's hard to just let stuff go. But man, until we get good at letting stuff go, it's like Tarzan can't move through the jungle unless he lets go of one vine as he grabs a hold of the other.
Yeah.
And so, the art of moving from one place to the other is being able to let go of where you've been in order to reach forward to where you're going. But until we get to that point, man, until we get, comfortable with the idea of, is it serving me right now? Man, we're just going to keep hauling it around, man, and just keep loading it and unloading it and having it do nothing, but it doesn't collect value. It just collects dust, right? And cost. And so we got to be good at letting that stuff go.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to that kind of acknowledgement, acceptance. It's you acknowledge whatever it is, accept that it has transpired and that has passed, and then let it go. Glean what you can from it, take what you can from it. Like so many of us will get just something happens, you get a flat tire. Like I got up this morning, I had my yesterday after golf, I went and switched my tires from winter tires to summer tires. And then I don't know if it was just the bead wasn't set right or the valve stem was, leaking or whatnot. But I went out this morning and my tire was low. And so I could have sat there and, danced around and done the angry jig and been like, oh, my life sucks. I cannot believe it. Or I could have just been like, okay, my tire's low. Let me get the pump. Let me fill it back up. Let me go over to 7-Eleven and put some more air in it. But how many of us spend so much time arguing with reality about this shouldn't happen? Well, it's happened. The past is the past. It's time to let it go. Well, that shouldn't happen. I need to have this nostalgia. I need to have this memory. I know so many people from, their parents passed, and then they want to hang on to old coffee makers or this old picture or this old thing, and they hang on to these things that just for the nostalgia of it. And that's just another thing that we carry with us. Like you can carry the love in your heart, you can carry the memories, you can carry all the pictures and whatever you want, but like to what degree does that serve you? Like to your point, like how much of their old stuff do you need to carry around to feel like you're honoring their memory? Because they moved on to the next place. They don't care about that stuff. They moved on. They don't care. But you feel like it's your duty as a person that's left behind or that it won't is unwilling to release the past. Now you got to carry all the stuff around from their stuff. Not only your stuff, you got to carry their stuff too. And then you
Yeah.
wonder why you feel heavy. You wonder why you feel burdened. You wonder why you don't feel free. And that's why I entitled this episode Baggage or Freedom. If you want to be free, learn to let go of the past, learn to let go of that baggage. You can take the memories with you, you can take the lessons with you, you can take that wisdom, but you don't have to take the stuff. You can let all that weight go.
Another way that this is kind of played out for me this weekend specifically, and it applies. We actually talked about grief not too long ago, and over the week, this past weekend, I've actually had two relatives pass away, um, and one Friday and then yesterday, um, and part of that process, part of the process of processing grief and processing loss, even in the form of, of death or people that pass on, is it's healthy to process it. It's healthy to experience it. Um, and at some point, we do have to get to the point of, I'm not going to say letting the person go like out of our hearts or minds or thoughts or memories or anything like that. But to this point, the reality is the person's they're no longer living. So you gotta, the chapter is closed in that. You gotta accept what was and and also accept what is. And that sounds pretty harsh, and it's definitely not easy. There's the process, a process, and maybe in some cases that process is an ongoing thing. Um, but part of letting that go, part of not having the baggage be luggage, is something you said a little while ago, and that's forgiveness, man. Sometimes you got to be able to let go of the hurts, the wounds. For sure, you can do that. Like, you don't have to let go of the person's memory and all that. But if that person wronged you or hurt you or anything along those lines, it is imperative for you to surely let go of that and forgive that person. And for a lot of us, as we record this, Father's Day is coming up, and a lot of us have some forgiveness that we got to do and continue to do around our father experience, especially for men. So in these kind of ways, letting go, again, there's a form of letting go that can involve people, in terms of people who are no longer here. These are things that are, that are just part of that. And what good does it do for you to carry literally a dead body around on your back, and wondering why you can't move on, wondering why you can't run? Well, you got literal dead weight on your shoulders. And I know, even one day when I'm gone, I mean, man, I hope I'm missed by some people, but I would surely want or hope folks to, at some point, definitely don't carry me around on your shoulders. I want folks to move on, my kids, my
Yep.
wife, my family, my friends, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, even in terms of loss and grief and in all those kinds of areas, man, being able to let go is important. And I'll let go and let you send us the break.
Right on. Well, let's let go of this and move ourselves on to a break. And we'll be right back. We're the Mad Men of Masculinity. Let's do this on KLDC.
Yeah, man, I had another relative. So,
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean, I'm a little more into the afterlife stuff than you are, but it always seems like in all the messages you get, they're like, Move on, have fun, go live your life. Don't worry about me. I'm doing my own thing. Like, I'm out here, playing in the cosmos." But we got to sit here and have a vigil for 20 years, acting like, oh, I got to carry him around with me, or somebody's gonna forget him. It's like they're busy. They're on to the next thing.
yeah. I remember when I was young, and I spoke at my grandmother's funeral a few years ago, and I remember when I was young, her vividly. I mean, I was little too, and I don't even know how it came up, but I remember her vividly saying at her funeral she didn't even want people to cry. She just wanted people to, sing a song or two
Yeah.
and go have some fun. So
Yeah, you want to honor your people. The best thing to do is tell all the funny stories and laugh because they're going to show up. Their spirits there. They want to have a good time. They don't want to be all woe is me.
all right, you want to bring us back?
Yep. And we're back. Mad Men
Mm-hmm.
of Masculinity, KLDC, 1220 AM in the Mile High City and on the interwebs everywhere. We're talking about letting
Sure
go, people.
enough.
What's your baggage? What's your luggage? What are you carrying around with you?
Yeah. And man, we surely invite folks. I mean, whether you're listening to us or over the air, here radio, as you know, we record these and then we broadcast them over KLDC, or they broadcast them over the airwaves here
Somebody
in
broadcast
Denver.
it.
But then we, as we watch or as we record these, we do it live on Facebook and YouTube, and then that's where we get the clips that we post everywhere else. But man, we love to hear folks' comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What's your thoughts? What's your experiences? All those kinds of things, man. Throw a comment down there. We'll,
Yeah.
if we see anything,
Yeah.
we surely respond.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. I mean, how is your letting go journey? How much baggage are you carrying around? How much of it is turned to luggage? Like, have you gone through that process of letting go of that luggage? And how much more free are you? Like, what is your experience now that you've processed and accepted and let go and forgiven? I mean, we would love to hear those stories.
Yeah, my wife and I were at a park, Wash Park, a couple weekends ago, and as we were sitting there, we just saw this random. I guess somebody was having a birthday party or something like that, and we just saw this random balloon go floating up in the sky, And I kind of had an epiphany. I don't think I ever said it to my wife before that, but I brought it up, and I was like, hey, babe, how many balloons have you seen just float up in the sky over the course of your life? And she kind of thought, and she's like, a lot. And I was like, and how many have you seen just fall out of the sky? How many times have you been walking or driving down the street and you just saw a balloon drop out of nowhere in the sky? Or, I mean, I've been on ships, stationed on ships, we've been on cruises. I have never ever seen a balloon floating on the surface of the ocean. And so then the question is, where did those balloons go? Like literally, where'd they go? I mean, when you see pictures of, from NASA or SpaceX or whoever, you never see them in space. So and things blow up, things catch on fire coming back into the atmosphere. So, not necessarily leaving. So but the question is like, where'd they go? And
Yeah.
it's something we rarely think about. But the idea, the thought is, what if we all have a balloon potential for our lives? Where, man, life is just, we float up. We're made to float, like, because of what's in us. We're made to rise up in the sky. But for most of us, there's some kind of brick holding down your balloon. There's something that's dead weight, that's holding you down from the heights that you were supposed to achieve in life. What is it in our lives that's holding us down? Is it our stuff? Is it, unforgiveness? Is it, you know, wounds and traumas? What are these things that can be baggage, that can be dead weight, that can keep us from floating away like a balloon, in a way maybe we're meant to do.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a good thing, but I'm remembering it, and we all float down here. But anyway, just imagine your dreams and how many of our dreams are being tied down by the past. How many of our dreams and passions and the things we want to create, we're not allowing ourselves to because we won't move from our hometown. We won't leave that job because it's stable. We won't leave that relationship because this is all I know. We won't leave our past behind us because that somehow we identify ourselves with that version of ourselves. But to be able to grow, to ascend, using your analogy, to be able to get to those higher altitudes, you have to lighten your load. You have to free yourself up from the past. You have to free yourself up from those weights. And that can look at so many different ways, but all of it really comes down to, can you acknowledge, accept, and forgive your past, learn from it, and then move on. Take the memories and the wisdom weigh nothing. They're weightless. They might even be more like helium, and it might lighten your load if you take that with you. But holding on to the trauma and the fear and all the identity that goes along with whatever that thing was is not helping you. It's hindering you. It's hindering your progress. It's hindering your purpose. It's hindering your path. And so, to Kirk's point earlier, what is it costing you? I think all of us, especially as we mature, especially men nowadays, like, we have to redefine what does masculinity mean to us. We have to redefine who am I as a man, and then we have to look at what are all these things costing me? Is it helping me? Is it hindering me? Is it making me a better man? Is it making me a worse man? Is it getting me further towards my goals? Is it getting me further towards my dreams, or is it just holding me back? And to your point, sometimes you got to get that luggage, you got to get that trunk out of the shed, look through it, take the lessons from it, and then get rid of all that stuff. Lighten your load. Let those things go so that you can free yourself up for the future.
I literally had an old DVD set of P90X in my
Yeah.
truck. I had like a couple, like, just empty backpacks. Just all kinds of stuff. And cut to the chase, I not only, I got rid of all the personal stuff that I had in there, like records and files and all that kind of stuff with personal info. But the rest of the stuff that was in there, I took all of that, I gave all of that to Goodwill. They can have the
Mhm.
trunk, and if somebody wants a P90X, DVD set, there's one at the Goodwill in Parker right now.
Yeah.
You can probably get it for a couple dollars. Um, but being able to go through that stuff and evaluate that stuff. A lot of men have been through bad, broken relationships. A lot of men have been through broken relationships with their kids, not for no other reason, but because you weren't the one telling them the story every day. The other side was telling their version of the story every day, and whatever. And so a lot of us have those kind of hurts and those kind of wounds, and it's really easy to hold on to, to the animosity towards the ex, or or her family or their family, or the cost that everything that you went through the divorce process, and just parental alienation. I mean, you can go on and on with all the things that we have as men in particular, in terms of like a past relationship, even a past marriage, that, man, we are better served. We're better served to just let that kind of stuff go. And I kind of feel like men, I think that men at least are better at moving on, I will say, not necessarily healing. Because I've seen guys get divorced more than one time from the same thing, like with the same issue. I mean, obviously it happens with women too, but I see guys, I'm like, dude, that's what caused your first divorce. Why didn't you fix that?
Yeah.
In your second marriage, or at least see if she was okay with that in your second marriage. So I think we might do better at moving on, but not necessarily healing. Because generally speaking, when I think of all the divorces that I know of, I don't know this empirically as far as data, but when I think of all the divorces that I know of, more often than not, the husband or ex-husband moves on faster than the wife in terms of the next relationship or the next marriage. So I think we might be better at moving on, but not necessarily the the healing, the emptying of the. I think we put some more stuff in that trunk,
Yeah.
and then we just take the trunk with us, to the next thing. We don't
Yeah.
necessarily fix what got us there in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. Like, if you don't learn from the last thing, you're going to recreate a new thing. And yeah, we may move on as men, but yeah, to your point, I think a lot of times until we get to the point of, I have too much weight, I have too much luggage, I have too much baggage, I need to process this stuff. And some of us start early, some of us start late, but there usually comes a kind of a breaking point where, like, I need to process all this stuff. And once you do, then you learn from that, then you gain the wisdom and the knowledge from it, and you can clean out that closet, clean out that trunk. But yeah, I think to your point, yeah, a lot of us are slow learners. We'll move on, but we didn't learn the lesson from the last thing, and we didn't stop. And that's why I think even in the book we put together, Seven Secrets of Modern Dating, and some of the other stuff we've done, that you need to take time between relationships. I've seen so many friends and I've seen so many acquaintances just bounce from one relationship to the next relationship to the next relationship, and it's like, serial trauma bonding. They're just bonding with the same girl in a different body, same relationship in another place, because they haven't dealt with the energy and the past and the trauma and all those things that they're taking along with them. So they just keep recreating the same thing, and until they stop, take a minute, reassess, process that last relationship, process the trauma, process the pain, process the anger, and learn from it, then they can move on to the next relationship in a better place. And of course, all relationships are about learning. So don't expect your next relationship to not be about learning. You're still going to learn things, but hopefully you're learning something new, not just processing the same old garbage with a new face, because it's up to us. We can either keep doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same result and being insane, or we can actually stop, take a breath, process, and learn, and then see what the next lesson is, see what the next journey is moving forward. And but that's impossible if you don't let go of the luggage from your past. You don't process that. You're just carrying it forward, and then you're bleeding on somebody who didn't cut you. You're taking the same pains into a new relationship, and then creating the same results.
And that's why the dating scene sucks today for singles.
Yeah.
That's why you hear, so many people. I mean, just especially when you get up in the 40s and 50s and all that kind of stuff, after folks are getting old and crotchety and set in their ways, especially.
Hey.
But that's why, people complain so much about the dating scene, because, more, I mean, man, way more than 51 out of 100. I would say probably 90 or more out of 100 people don't heal what was broken in their last relationship over their history, then they end up complaining, saying that, all men are this or all
Hmm.
women are this. Well, no, the ones you keep picking are like that because you haven't healed yourself. And so, because you're broken, you take that same brokenness everywhere you go, and you experience the same thing over and over again, because all men aren't whatever and all women aren't whatever. But that's why the dating scene is hot garbage these days, because people don't take the time after a relationship doesn't work out, or after a relationship ends, to heal whatever it was that caused that relationship. Most of the time people are not 100% innocent, like the other person was all at blame. And so, if
Yeah.
nothing else, you chose the wrong person. So what is it about your
Hmm.
picker that you
Hmm.
need to fix or heal? But that's the reason that the dating scene is just
Yeah.
garbage these days, man, because folks just they keep going around the same mountain. If you keep going around the same mountain, at some point you're going to keep ending up at the same spot over and over again. And that's something that that folks got to deal with, but we don't want to take the time to do that, because that takes work and that takes effort. You got to
Yeah.
open up trunks, and you got to wipe off dust, and you got to go through stuff and put stuff, separate the trash from the treasures, and all those kinds of things. And we don't want to do that, because it's a lot easier to just get on another site and go
Yep.
on another date, or find another person, or go to the club and hook up, and all those kinds of things, man. So let's take our last break, man. let's uh
Take that break.
let's rock and roll. We're gonna pivot to the divot. um and we'll be right back after this break. Mad Men of Masculinity on KLDC. I think, man, if folks like start fixing stuff and just stop dipping to the next one,
Yeah. Well, it takes,
man,
it takes the most people's least favorite word, accountability. You need to look at what part did I pay?
mhm,
What could I have done better? What did I need to learn? What do I need to let go of? And everybody wants to play the victim and be like, oh, it's like all these ladies out there now in the dating scene talking about they've all dated narcissists. It's like, really? Only like 1 to 3% of the population is an actual narcissist. So
mhm,
are you going to the hospital and taking them out of the psych ward, or is that just your
yeah,
perspective? Because they don't want to fit your outlandish criteria, or you don't want to take accountability. So instead of going, well, maybe I could have done that better, or I should have learned this, you say they were a narcissist. How's that working for
yeah. It's real easy and convenient to say that. as
you?
opposed to as opposed to saying, you know what, I keep picking jerks.
Hmm. Hmm.
I like bad boys. But the
Yeah.
reason why they keep cheating on me and
Yeah.
slap me around, well, duh.
Yeah.
Or I want hot chicks. Well,
Yeah.
okay. Then you got to deal with all the likes that she's chasing on social media, and all the
Yeah.
attention that she demands that she has to have. So,
Yeah. Yeah. This ain't a Michael Jackson album. Bad ain't good, and bad guys,
not
well,
at all.
bad boys ain't good.
Yeah. All right, let's do that.
All right, let's finish it. And we're back. Mad Men of
Yeah,
Masculinity,
boys.
KLDC, fourth quarter, red zone offense. Let's do this thing.
That's right. Shout out KLDC. Shout out the team. Shout out our guy. Man, at some point we got to get back in the studio just for a
Yeah,
little
we got to go
conversation.
see Tanner. Make sure see how his beard's doing. Make sure see if he's dating. What's going on with Tanner?
Looking like Justin Herbert, Chargers quarterback. That's just my assessment.
Yeah.
Anyhow, and talking about
So
just emptying out your baggage before it becomes luggage, man.
yeah. And during the break, for you
We
guys listen to us on radio, we have some of the best conversations during break. So we're gonna rehash it and bring it back up because what Kirk was talking about at the end of the last segment uh comes down to accountability. When you leave a relationship, you need to look in the mirror and go, what could I have done better? What did I do wrong? What's my responsibility? How can I learn from this? But most of y'all, especially on the dating scene now, don't want to take any accountability. And I don't know how, what is it? 1 to 3% of the population is actually narcissists. But every lady I talk to out there or see out there talk about my ex was a narcissist. Really? Did you go to the psych ward and pull him out of his room, or are you just not want to take accountability and deciding to call everybody narcissistic? So you don't have to be like, oh, maybe I had a part to play in this catastrophe that I called a relationship.
like I said, during the break here, I've talked to and know a lot of guys that want to date the hot chick. I
Mm-mm.
want to date the one that has a forehead like a windshield, nice and smooth, and has the Donald Duck lips and the caterpillar
Mhm.
eyelashes, and she's walking around with you know booty hanging out and all stuff. I want the hot chick. Yeah, well, you got to deal. There's some stuff that comes along with that. Her identity is circled or centered a lot around attention, and she needs
Yeah.
to be out there in them streets, and she needs to be seen, and all that kind of stuff. And you're gonna have to keep up with that. And then at the same time, a lot of ladies like the bad boy. There's
Mhm.
something about a bad boy. I don't know what it is. Well, what it is they about to be your ex, because that's the same guy you're gonna be complaining about. When he cheats on you or beats on you. I mean, or just is a jerk. Maybe he's not a narcissist. Maybe he's just a jerk. And you keep picking jerks because something about the bad boy with the backwards cap, or
Yeah.
the neck tattoo is attracted to you. I mean, okay. Well,
Yeah.
then there's some things that come along with that too. So,
Yeah.
so maybe it's just something about the picker, as
Yeah.
opposed to just everybody else is a problem. Maybe at some point you need to work on who you're picking.
Yeah, if ever at any point after a relationship, the words "all men" or "all women" or X, Y, or Z has come out of your mouth, that is a big blinking sign of time to do the inner work. If you keep running into the same people, that means you, at an unconscious level, your inner child is feels that that's all they deserve. All you girls that like bad boys that treat you awful, it's because some part of you deep down feels like that's all you deserve. And until you deal with that, until you go into that shadow place, until you heal your inner child, you're going to constantly repeat that cycle. And that's the whole point. Relationships are all about learning so that you will actually reevaluate and go, okay, some part of me believes this is all I deserve. And that's why I keep getting this. Some part of me believes I'm not worth loving. So I'll just accept whatever I can get. And so that's why your relationships look the way they do. That's why you keep having these same relationships with different faces. These are all signs and signals pointing you towards what needs to be healed and what needs to be let go of, what needs to be unpacked so that you can free yourself up from your past trauma, so you can free yourself up from the animosity and anger and fear and doubts and all those things that you're carrying from the past. So each relationship is a blessing, but most of you treat it like a curse and thinking that you can just bounce from one to the next. And but all you're doing is recreating the same relationship over and over again.
Yeah, and there's something that is to be learned from the junk that's in your trunk. There's something that is to be learned from all the things that happened in your past, all the things that maybe you've collected or gathered, literally or figuratively. There's something to be learned from all of those things, but that doesn't necessarily mean you need to hang on to all of those things. Like sometimes, the best way to learn from it is to let it go and to allow it to pass through the same way we are passing through this world and through this time. Allow the world and things of it to pass through you and to pass through your life. But the more we hang on to all of the stuff and all the junk, the more it ends up costing us, man, over time. The more it ends up, in one way or another, it costs you to store it. You public storage is it's gonna cost you to keep that stuff in there, and then, when you do pull it out, man, then you gotta deal with all the dust and you know, rodents that are in there, the hantavirus that's on some of that stuff, and I mean, on and on and on, man. But it's gonna cost you something. The longer you hold on,
Yeah, I mean, we
because
all
we
go
have
through phases in life.
we let stuff go. We benefit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we all go through those phases in life, but it doesn't mean we have to carry those phases with us. Like, we're not meant to be hanging on to our elementary school pictures and all the notes from all the little girlfriends and stuff from elementary school. Yeah, those things are neat. It's a trip down memory lane. Like, I moved back into my old place here, and I was living here 20 years ago and got into my old, the old storage in my room and actually found old pictures from 20 years ago and some of my old stuff. And what's interesting about that is it's nice nostalgia, but you have to realize immediately, I can't go back there. Like the girl in the picture, I can't go look her up because she's probably married with kids now, halfway across the world or whatever. But it's nice nostalgia. You just don't want to live there. You want to take it and move on with it. Realize these phases of life are for a reason. And life is set up pretty perfectly. We cannot stay in any one phase. Yeah, military, college, teen years, 20 somethings, that was fun. But now at my age, I don't want to go back there. I had a friend ask me if I want to go to a concert this weekend. And I'm like, nah, I mean, Red Rocks is cool and all, but want to be around 5,000, 10,000 people doesn't sound all that appeasing to me right now. And that's just the phase of life I'm in. I'd much rather go to a lounge, listen to a jazz band or something like that, something casual. Maybe that's the old man in me, but we need to stop fighting our stages of life and our aging because all these things are part of the plan and perfectly set up for us. But because of Hollywood and marketing and big business and all that stuff, we think that we idolize youth. Well, talk to anybody who's been through their 20s. Most of us don't want to go back there because we were all idiots. Yeah, we could party all night and do everything and get up next day and keep on going because we had a new liver and fresh muscles and everything, but we didn't know nothing. We were useless. Now we actually have some wisdom. We have some knowledge. We can be the sage and the guide and the coach and help the younger generations. But if we had stayed where we were, we'd still be useless. So letting go of your past means learning from it, processing it, and moving forward and taking that with you so that you can move on to the next stage of life. You don't want to be the old guy in the bar. You don't want to be the guy who was talking about football, his high school football career when he's in his 40s and 50s. You want to be able to process those things, let them go, and move on so that you can get to the next phase of life.
And that being said, the past is it's not bad. It's not bad to have memories. It's not bad to have, things that, maybe remind. I mean, it's about balancing in the two. So as much as I talked about, the realization of going through the storage unit yesterday and the stuff and all that. Again, there's some balance to that. Shoot, behind me, man, I don't need my capping. I got my sash over my shoulder when I graduated with honors, and somewhere up there, I got my sword from the Coast Guard. I got my pictures of my kids from a while ago, me and them, and so, but I mean, to me, there's a difference between this and even downstairs on my bookshelves. I got a bunch of trophies from Toastmasters speaking and that kind of stuff, but none of that is collecting dust. Like none of that is costing me anything. None of that is just baggage or whatever luggage that I'm carrying around. So there's a balance in all that kind of stuff in terms of memories and things that you have, things from the past and all that. You just got to be able to have the discernment to see whether or not does this serve me and how much of my past do I have or hold on to or maintain, because at some point maybe okay, I got this much and this much is enough. But man, if you got stuff that is just literally weighing you down, or you got stuff in a trunk somewhere, literally or figuratively somewhere, is that serving me? Like, do you see it every day? Does it, what is it doing for you? If it's doing nothing for you, then maybe it's meant to just, be let go of. Maybe it's meant to just literally be in your past and you send it off to goodwill.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you make a good point because your past should be pictures and picture boxes. You should have it up on your wall. You should be able to point at it and go, yeah, that's when I was in the Air Force, and that's when I was in high school, and that's when I did this, and that's when I did that, and that's all just memorabilia of your past and all the things you've learned, all the things you've done. But you can't live in that picture. You can't live in that picture box. So having the nostalgia, having the memories, and it's good. It's good to have touch points. Like one of my things I tell all my coaching clients is have a picture of little you. Have a picture of you as a little boy somewhere where you can see it so that you can remember when you're freaking out and when you're going through it, that it's that little boy and you take care of that little boy. So in those ways, that's a good therapeutic thing, but you can't live there. You can't go back to that age. You just know that that's part of you that you're processing and healing from. But having your past up there so that you can look at it and be nostalgic and remember all the things you've done is a good thing. That helps you with your wisdom. That helps you with moving on to the next phase of life. You're like, oh yeah, I remember that. That was great. But now I'm here. I remember being in the military. I remember being overseas. I remember doing this. Those are great memories. But I'm no longer there. I'm just going to take those memories and that wisdom and that experience and move forward with it.
And again, moving forward is the key. I mean, there's not much in the past tangibly that can that can take you into the future. Even man, when these spaceships take off from Cape Canaveral, they have the SRBs, the solid rocket boosters that help them get off the ground, and then at some point, those things don't serve a purpose anymore, so they jettison that, and then they allow the rocket ship itself to keep going and propel, and then at some point, another part of it falls off, and then another part of it till you have the actual living, breathing part of the whole rocket ship. The rest of it was just meant to get the capsule into space. And so, how much of the things that we have in our life are just meant to get us, to the heavens where we're supposed to be,
Mhm.
where the mission is. And so, the things that we have in life, man, that to me, landing the airplane, I think the things that we have in life, man, are, maybe most of it is just meant to get us somewhere
Yeah.
as opposed to weighing us down, to cause it being more difficult to get where we need to be. So we got to find that balance, man. We got to
Yeah.
live in that balance and know what are solid rocket boosters and what are first stage and main engine cut off MECO and all this other kind of stuff. Part of the process of letting go, continually shedding the things that aren't serving us anymore, that were only meant to get us to where we need to be in order to be the person.
Yeah, I mean, every stage of your life is leading you to the next stage. But if you keep hanging on to the old stage, you're not going to get to the next stage. So, like the monkey bar analogy, you got to let go of one bar to grab on the next one. So all we're saying is take what you can, take the wisdom, take the experience, take the memories, and let go of all the luggage and the baggage to free yourself up to move into the next phase of life. Move into the stage of life that you're going into, so that you're not held back by the anchors and the weights of the past. And speaking of the past, make sure to like and subscribe. Check out our old episodes. Subscribe so you can check out our new episodes. And until next time, we are the Mad Men of Masculinity. We love you, and we are out.